Guys, so I remember when after my master's degree in Finland, if you followed me closely, you guys know I had a master's degree and PhD in Finland. And then after that, I decided to visit my home country in Festac town where I grew up at the time. If those of you who know Nigeria, you might know Festac was a place where the then former president of Nigeria in 1977 decided to celebrate African cultures at the time. And this community, Festac town, was part of the inauguration, was part of the way in which they recognized this space at the time. And so visiting Festac at that time, I think this was around 2015, 2016, I saw that the residents were so happy, or about 2017 thereabout, the residents were so happy, that right now they had a Shoprite that had been built to serve the communities that actually were around Festac and its sub-regions. And I remember visiting Festac. As you can see in this video, I was still looking quite quite young, but I had visited the Shoprite at the time, and I was really fascinated at how this conglomerate, so to speak, had given some form of dignity to the people who were living both in Festac and the environs from where this Shoprite was situated. And I was really proud, at least we could go to Shoprite and buy goods, and really felt as though we were shopping as in the industrialized countries where people would have stores, retail stores, so to speak, in a really industrial kind of like westernized fashion. So a lot of people really craved for that. Even those Nigerians from the diaspora, when they visited, they felt like, okay, this felt familiar, and they would go to ShopRite and buy goods rather than going to the local markets and all that. And so when Christo Wiese speaks, you better listen, because he's the builder, behind both Pepcore and also ShopRite. All right. So most of us in Nigeria, we're always proud about ShopRite. I'm sure many Nigerians, many Africans do not even know the CEO or the builders behind the concept of ShopRite. All right. And so that's why many of the, business people in South Africa, when they speak, I always take notes and always take my time to listen, because these guys are builders. All right. Just like what the Motsepes are doing now with AFCON. I made a video yesterday about when Nigeria just defeated Algeria, and it was a sort of like a correction of a historical abuse when one Algerian player was abusing one of the guys who was standing from the DRC with his hand like that the whole game and tried to abuse him. But I actually argued that was a correction of African history. But anyway, one of the, the likes of Patrice Motsepe is doing with AFCON, these are builders, all right? So when they speak about the nation of South Africa, you better listen. So Christo Wiese, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, actually spoke to some of us growing up in Nigeria, all the way from South Africa in that. And in this interview he has with Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, he's speaking to those things. One of the characteristics that helped him, set up this empire at the time, hard work. He speaks a lot about hard work. I've listened to a lot of his videos, his children videos as well. I think he has a really interesting, his daughter, she speaks a lot about entrepreneurship and all of that as well. They speak a lot about hard work, guys. These guys, they put in a lot of work. And one of the things he's speaking about, is a weakness he's seeing in South Africa today, is this inability to sit down together and talk. And I usually say, when I listen to Prince Mashele and Rob Hersov, when I listen to Prince Mashele and, DJ Sbu, the thing is the same. It's the same that there's a difficulty in especially the different races sitting together and having a discussion. And until South Africa gets there, the country will not take off. As Mashele has actually spoken, I'll be posting a video soon, until white and black get comfortable sitting together and analyzing the pains and the struggles of South Africa, and really institutionalizing forgiveness as a political capital in helping this country rise again. Bro, South Africa is going nowhere. And Christo Wiese is actually saying that in this video. He's actually arguing that the whole term with Stellenbosch Mafia is something that he feels is laughable. He describes it along the same lines with what many have termed white monopoly capital, according to him anyway, because as you know, this guy is a builder, all right? And when I speak about, you know, his input in South Africa, I don't just speak about it from the perspective of, you know, a billionaire from South Africa. We in Nigeria were able to feel the force. We in Nigeria were able to feel the force of his idea, his vision of Shoprite to expand, you know, this whole idea of a retail trade, not necessarily just to expand the retail business per se, but to bring dignity to the African peoples, all right? So this was a vision that he propagated in that regard. And one of the things I also liked about, you know, some of his analysis, some of his thoughts, I'll be playing the video soon. I think I wouldn't want to spill the beans, but he's actually saying that, you know, he would never be able to see himself leaving South Africa because of the frustrations he's seen. He brags about the fact that South Africa has a really competent private sector, right? And I agree with that. I mean, like the business, the entrepreneurs. In fact, Rob Hersoff, I'll be making a video soon. Rob Hersoff says he has a list of, I think, about 150 US dollar billionaires who are South African that have fled South Africa. Imagine if that whole force, the gang, it's like a gang. Imagine if they pool their resources and decide to come back to South Africa, bro. Okay, so Christo Wiese is actually arguing that, you know, until we get to that point where we can now sit together, different races, white, blacks, Indians, and colors, sit together and start really thinking about the future of this country, South Africa, such a beautiful country, we're heading nowhere. And South Africa needs this discussion. This is why we're doing what we do here on Kwazemi. I'm Nigerian, I'm an outsider, really proud outsider from South Africa, and I see the potential from a bird's eye view, from the top, I see it, and that's why I'm here trying to dissect these issues I see in the land. And the biggest takeaway he has in this video, which is a message I want to really help see if we can try to debate a lot in the comments, is how he speaks about ideology. He's actually saying that ideology will cripple South Africa. He's actually arguing that if ideology can be taken out of the way and probably more of the private sector is empowered because of the competence they have, 1 year is too much to transform South Africa, that we will see a South Africa that we will not be able to believe is a continent, is a country on this continent. And ideology, and one of the things I like about his balance is that he's not just blaming the ANC's ideology, you know, for what many people now have been arguing that's crippling South Africa today, but he also blamed the Nats of the 1940s for the ideology of apartheid, which he says that he always knew would never be sustainable, would never last long. And he was always at clash. In this video, he says he was always in clashing with the National Party at the time. So ideology for him is something that, and I see this often in my PhD thesis. When I wrote my PhD thesis on Ghana, the former president of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, spoke about how he had to move away from the left-wing party of the Provisional National Defense Council government, the PNDC government, because the left wing were propagating what he called empty theories, all right, theories of communism and Marxism and socialism, and how Ghana had to be a socialist state. But within 1 year, when Ghana was in a really deep decline, they didn't have pragmatic solutions on how to bring the economy out from the demise it had found itself. And so we saw Ghana shift to the IMF and the World Bank. And what in my thesis I called was Africa's most successful case of economic pragmatism in Africa, especially in the 1980s. And so that's what Christo Wiese is actually pushing for here, that South Africa now needs to be more pragmatic and less ideological to be able to scale through, especially through the challenges of the 21st, 22nd. Powerful video. Let's just listen to Christo Wiese break these things down for us and share your thoughts, guys, in the comments.
The point is, so I try to see the positive element in all these developments, and I think the GNU is a positive development. There's the comment I made to you earlier, that part of the sadness in South Africa is that we seem to find it so difficult to speak to each other. And debate with each other in a civilized manner. At the dinner where I met Prince, I told them, you know, my reasons for optimism, the normal 5 points. And then I said, and there is now a new point that I've added to my list. And that is, I remember in the 80s, in the run-up to 1990, I was part of one or two of these discussion groups. People would get together and talk. People from different political persuasions, even people from different social groups. I mean, my friend Franklin Son, who died on Friday, he was one of the guys in those groups that I remember, and many others.
Wow. Okay.
And maybe I'm just out of it, but since the 1990s, since the transition, I'm not aware of people getting together and having those chats.
Sure.
It's happening now. Wherever you go, you hear, we went to this
absolutely
little group, and we went to that little group.
Yeah.
And we talked again about how do we get to where we need to be.
Absolutely.
And let's find a way. We know that we're not on the right track at the moment. So what do we do to get on the right track?
Yeah.
And that was the similar vein of the discussion in the 1980s leading up to 1990.
I mean, even a conversation like this, I think, will surprise many people.
Yeah.
And so I agree, this need for us to, we're all in the same political community.
Absolutely.
So we need to find a way to...
And we've got so much to be positive about. I have this little rhyme, so I'm going to sing it for you as well. Whenever people now ask me, what do you think of South Africa now? And people often ask me, particularly foreigners. My first reaction is, compared to what? Let's start there. Let's compare ourselves. Look at the rest of the world. And I mean, I don't see very happy pictures in too many places.
Sure.
So let's start there. And then, I add always that when people ask me during the transition, are you going to stay or go? I said, I'm staying for a number of reasons. But the main reason is I believe the majority of people in South Africa are good people.
Yeah.
There are countries where you cannot say that of people, but the majority are good people. And that in the end will matter. And the other thing, which is a more practical reason, is if you look at the other so-called failed African states, South Africa differs from them in one very important aspect, and that is we have a very vibrant, large, competent, committed private sector.
Sure.
Whatever the government cannot do, and governments cannot do most things.
We've certainly discovered that.
The private sector can fix it tomorrow. I firmly believe that these developments that we now see with electricity and the rail and the water and what have you, I firmly believe that if government would get out of the way, this country can turn on a tiki. A year from now, you won't recognize it. If we can get away from the mistake that we made in the previous dispensation, tied to an ideology that could never last, if we can get rid of our ideological hang-ups and become pragmatic and say we're here to try to make life better for everyone in this country. This country in a year can become unrecognizable.
There's no doubt about that.
So that's the way I see it.